272 and then Muddy Creek Road.
Any update on this one would be that I need to basically engage our traffic engineer to start the process again this added to the TIP for stuff. We have not seen any movement on the Foxbrook project at this point, which was kind of what was the catalyst for analyzing this intersection. We do have enough traffic data from their end that they've done at this intersection. The goal would be to put this on the tip for some type of improvement.
EMS working group update.
I updated that earlier in the meeting that our next step is going to be to attend a WellSpan meeting. That will be myself, Scott Aki, and RC that will be attending that meeting.
Thank you. Stony Point sidewalk waiver.
I have not been able to get to that one. That will be a new business item and an action item in the meeting.
Beautification strategy.
I have not had time to do an update on that one. I apologize. I've been so wrapped up in looking at numbers and financials. The one thing I would like to say though is in number 3 on that item for the videotaping of the meetings, Alice brought up a good point. Thank you for that. We're still learning the technology interface in terms of getting these out in a timely fashion out on the website. So what we'll do is we'll make a commitment. I'd like to make a commitment now, if you're okay with it. We'll try to get those out. We'll put a deadline out there by noon on Monday after our meetings, just in case Lisa's out or somebody's out. And those data packets do take a considerable amount of time to upload to YouTube. Okay.
And just anything I'll add too on your there. I'm looking to have the road crew as their community first stuff in November. Right now,
Okay.
October, we're playing catch up. We've lost a lot of time in July and August because of bad weather and storm damage repair, and we're in a very tight timeline right now to finish our patching and our swale work before the month of October ends. So I will be looking to do that as we slow down in November.
And I do apologize, there is one thing that came in. There's a note there from one of our residents. They did submit an email into the township, and that was their recommendation for basically a brand for the community going forward. So that's where that one came from, and that one states East Cocalico, where family and community grows. So, okay.
Thank you. Input from business and residents.
On this one here, this is also related to beautification strategy. I want to put this one on hold because there's some other thoughts that I have here as we talk about the budget that I want to propose, and I want to discuss at the budget meeting. Okay? The improved communications, we broke these out a little bit more because we are looking at the website now, Scott. One of the other options here is updating Facebook. That's part of, again, I want to hold this for now. I'll have some more discussion. I want to throw some ideas at you budget-wise because it is interwoven with the budget discussion.
We should have, most likely by the workshop meeting, an estimate from Civic Plus on updating a new website.
Okay,
Right. Okay.
rental ordinance.
I talked to Mr. Brubaker, and we both agreed that that will occur after the workshop for the budget.
Okay, good.
So that one's been deferred.
Yeah.
You got my comments, right?
Gating woody waste to prevent illegal dumping.
I originally had that for an action item, but again, I'm deferring that to our next October meeting.
Tax collector update.
We did advertise. The advertisement will be in after review next Wednesday. Do you have a copy of it? In the advertisement, just to give a schedule update, we are looking at having all qualified resumes into the township by October 24th. And at that point, then we'll set up interviews. I am aware of one candidate who's very interested, who has already met to talk about the position with me. And I've heard that there might be a second person that may be interested at this point. We'll find out what comes and when we advertise that. Staff knows what to do when they receive a resume. that. So we will see what resumes we get on the 24th, and then we'll set up interviews, and then we'll take action in November.
Mr. Russell, if I may, at one time, there was a thought process out there letting the county handle the tax collection. Where is that thought right now?
That thought would be only if we can't get a qualified tax collector. And the reason of that is because the township collects a light tax and a fire hydrant tax. The county does not provide that services. That means we would have to do that ourselves, and then the county would do that, and that would be very redundant, as well as cost ineffective. The other thing that our tax collector has done is, quite frankly, provide better service than what you get from the county. And so that would be what we'd be looking at for the next person that would come in, with both the after hours that were provided and some of the personal service. There's also the tax collector, with having it in-house, has allowed us at times when we have questions about addresses and names and stuff like that, that the tax collector has the best database. So it comes in very handy too. But that the biggest reason is, well, most municipalities, in a lot of situations, they do rely on the county. That would cause double work for us right now.
Is that position viewed as an independent contractor or a township employee? How is that?
That position is an elected position, so it is set by ordinance what the rate of compensation is.
Does that come with benefits then, perhaps?
No, it's just it's a per transaction.
Thank you.
No new business.
Is there any business?
Manager's report.
Actually, I have no manager's report because it's very simple. For the last 2 weeks, I worked on MS4, annual report, and the budget, and nothing else.
Okay.
Including answering emails, phones, or any other things. I have over 200 emails I'm sorry for today.
And the budget. The budget and the budget.
And the budget.
And the budget.
On the MS4.
Just probably one thing though on the MS4 side. We did have land studies, and I talked about last meeting the comment that we had gotten with our pollution reduction plan, where they approved it, but they did an approval that was bizarre, which would be like Brent Lee suggested to you to approve a plan conditioned upon an applicant changing his density of development. That's not an approval.
Well,
And that's really what we got from DEP with our pollution reduction plan. We approved your plan, but we basically disagree with all your calculations for what we just approved. So with that in place, I did have land studies to look at it. The comments do have the potential of having a significant impact on the projects we have done. Basically, the township's engineer, the land studies, all the engineers in the county, all the engineers in the state went to training with DEP over 18 months ago. They explained how they were to calculate this plan. And basically there was a concept at that time which was called parsing out properties. Basically, if a property did not have an outfall, it's not an MS4 because you must have a point outfall. They trained it, they taught it, it's been educated. Every engineering firm, every municipality turned it in that way. And now DEP's coming back saying, well, you have point discharge coming off a field. Well, show where the discharge is. There's no swale, there's no pipe, there's no stream, there's nothing around there. So now all the municipalities that have ag within their urbanized area, and in Lancaster County, that would be, just off the top of my head, us, Manor Township, West Hempfield, just to name a few, Africa Township, they have ag that are in MS4 boundary. Now all of a sudden we have to put all that ag in, and that now impacts how much additional sediment we as a municipality have to remove. So where I told you we're looking at well over $500,000 worth of projects, that has the potential of the township having $1 million worth of projects. And we get this 30-day time period to appeal. So we got this letter on September 20th. I'm meeting with land studies next week, and I will be preparing a technical appeal letter to DEP to stop the clock so that we can just analyze what we have going on and quite frankly allow other municipalities to catch up. I do think the reason they did this is because the Lancaster delegation held a meeting with DEP over the summertime to complain about what they saw coming, which was this. And So DEP, instead of issuing rejection letters to everybody, now is approving it, and giving you 30 days to appeal. And if you don't appeal, then you have to accept the comment. And the comment's open-ended because we don't know exactly what it could lead to at this point.
That's DEP's tactic.
Then
A
I've
lot of
never-
open-ended, they make these things, and everybody knows they change it. They can't make up their mind if it's Thursday at 8:30 or 8:31, they don't know.
I've never seen that before. I mean, like I said, that would be like you guys approving a plan right now and say condition on the developer changing his density from high density to low density. That's not an approval.
That's why, I wanted you to bring that up, so that people here know what.
So we will appeal it, but, and I don't know what impact that would have in the budget, but I am taking that into account with what we're talking about at the workshop meeting.
For clarification, we're appealing that individually, or we're going to join with other?
There's no way every municipality has to receive a letter. So right now, it's East Cocalico, for the paper, Ephrata Township, and Manor, who've all gotten the exact same comment.
Right.
And each board and each manager is figuring out what to do. More than likely, all three municipalities will appeal it.
Right, and I saw those email chains, that's why I was wondering if maybe this afternoon you had looked at pulling them together and responding jointly, but if it has to be done individually.
We're communicating with one another, and we're talking with engineering firms, for two represents the other two municipalities, and we have land studies on our end. And there is discussions going on. There's an approach, I do like land studies approach, so we got an approach to go with it. We certainly would like to avoid one legal, but that is always the last option at some point.
And that would be the place where we could combine.
And
If it comes down to legal,
Right,
Yeah.
you don't want to do it.
yeah, it's, well, you had mentioned it at the last meeting about the amount of work MS4 is going to require. It's, I mean, it's important for the public to understand, it's starting already. It really is starting already, and it's starting at really an accelerated rate. I think it's more accelerated than we thought.
It created, that's why we're looking at permitting tracking software, that's what we met with today, because of the volume of work that we're gonna have to do with this the new requirements and the tracking that we have to do. I told Tony what we had submitted on Friday for the annual report. We gotta get it passed because the annual report's looking at the last 5-year requirements. But it was written for looking at the next 5-year requirements, and what we submitted, we wouldn't get away with it next year's report. So it's gonna be challenging. We're gonna have to meet with NPDES holders. Looking at one in the audience right now, he's looking down at his phone. But we're gonna have to meet with NPDES holders, and we have to go over with them what, we have to document that with DEP that we met with them. We went over what their maintenance responsibilities are, and that they're turning in an annual inspection form to the town, saying that they performed maintenance on it, here's the corrective actions that were taken, or there was no problems found. And we have to document that to DEP that it's occurring, and I have to put my signature on there that every one of these facilities that does that has actually done all that work. So
It puts us in a defensive posture with every single piece of property,
Everything.
because the fines are so severe.
So, but it's, there's people, like I said, Four Seasons would be one. We've met with a couple of the biggest. We've already met with High. We've met with the Quarry, with New Enterprise. We've met with Pepperidge. We've met with Supervisor. And now we have to start meeting with other ones. And we have to kind of almost, like our online disposal system, our old system, we're going to have to set the same thing up with this. So we did respond back in our annual report this year that starting in 2019, over a 3-year period of time, we would meet with 100% of the properties and do that initial meeting, that initial inspection, set up a self-reporting where they report back that they've done the inspection work and that they've corrected any problems that are wrong based off what we told them they need to look at. And we have to document all that, and just like we do with the pump reports and stuff like that, we're gonna have to get the same things from every one of the properties that has a detention basin, that has porous pavement, has a rain garden, bioswale, all these little things that were put in over the years. Now it's coming due to document that they're actually being maintained the way they were permitted.
So, just for clarification, property owner A gets this letter from whomever, and they document that all this stuff's been done. Somebody has to go out and inspect it to make sure, correct? I mean, we just don't take their word for it.
Well, right now it's self-reporting, and there'll be a little affidavit or something where they're putting
Okay,
their signature on that, saying that they're certifying that this work is truthful, being truthfully applied.
okay.
At some point, DEP might come back and say, that's not acceptable, the township has to go out and verify it. We're not at that point yet.
Based on their pattern and practice, that's
It
probably.
will be coming at some point. So that's one, there's a lot of changes that come out. It does have a big impact on our budget at this point.
It's a lot of time.
It's unmandated, but it is a lot of time. And what I really, as Tony knows, I got real panicked when I looked at that, started working on that annual report and saw the new requirements and what it's gonna do and what's required of us. And even then, now the last thing is the county's got what's called the county WIP, the waterway improvement plan. And they're putting their plan together. And so the municipalities will remove, let's say this is all the sediment that now DEP says Lancaster County is removed. We're removing about this much. Now, they got this other amount over the next 5 years that has to come from somewhere. So are they going to impose all these regulations on farms at this point? Which they don't necessarily have the direct means to regulate, or are they going to come back and find ways to take what the municipalities are doing and broaden it out to here? That's what they did years ago with the sewer authorities, and then they all got involved in a class action lawsuit at that point and slowed DEP down. And DEP, once they were losing that lawsuit, then went after the municipalities, which became the next target.
Next, half of Leicester's business.
So, but the county WIP is actually a big concern right now, and it's due at the end of October. It will be turned in. There was a meeting the other day, but I missed it because of a personal issue. I was in there. But that county WIP, they gave the county 90 days to put together our plan. Now, you remember it took us a year to put our plan together. They gave the county 90 days, the conservation district 90 days to put a plan together from when they were notified to when it's due to DEP. For something that has countywide implications to all the municipalities in the county. It's just, it is, I'll be honest with you, it's mind-boggling, and quite frankly, at this point, if they don't come up with a countywide solution, I don't know what we can do, because we're like I said, we're already at the point where we could be spending up to $1 million over the next 5 years on working on stormwater projects.
You know, I just crossed the Conowingo Dam here the other week, and they were opening the gates with all this flood water, and it just makes me think. They've admitted there's so much sediment behind just the Conowingo Dam, and all the legacy sediment that's in there from wherever, my grass that I fertilize, the farmer's fields, whatever, all that stuff's captured in behind that dam. And every time they open those gates, all that stuff, and the Susquehanna River is the largest contributor to the Chesapeake Bay there is. They know where the problem is at. They can say it's from the farmers or it's from this, but if they would clean that mess up behind each and every dam, yeah, it's gonna be an enormous amount of money, but it's gonna be an enormous amount of money for each entity in the county and the state, because we all contribute to the Susquehanna River. And you know, there it is, right there in front of them, and they just ignore it. They just ignore it. They got more excuses than you can shake a stick at for not wanting to do it. It's annoying.
Well, you said.
It's easier to come down on us and say, you gotta cough up $2 million, and we're supposed, well, you got the ability to do that because all you gotta do is tax people. Well, it's more than just that. It's more than that.
You said it well, Doug, it's the path of least resistance.
Yeah,
What they're
it's
doing
crazy.
is they're just passing that
Absolutely.
burden on to the local municipality, wash their hands of it,
Right.
and then we have to deal with it.
And the solutions are backwards too, and I've been talking about this for 10 years now, and Mr. Mitchell knows about this too, we've been talking. And the low-hanging fruit, quite frankly, is coming up with ways to get the excess manure off the fields. First and foremost, get done that first, then you work on the stream bank stabilization, which is your legacy sediment, which is much more expensive. Then after you get done that, then you do the stupid rain gardens and stuff like that. That's the order the work should be. And right now, we're doing the middle road stuff, which is the legacy sediment, which is stream bank restoration, which you could do, if you spend $1 on stream bank restoration, you could spend $0.25 or less on a farm and get the same impact, if not better impact. And so for $250,000 or $200,000, we could do what would be $1 million worth of work right now for the township on these streams. It would be better if they allowed us to go adopt farms and spend money on there and get their conservation plans up and running and do improvements above and beyond what their conservation plans call for than what we're going to do at Reedstown Park.
Yeah, that's right.
Just to address that point, you know, with many of these horrendous rains we've had over the last several months, you know, I have about every conservation plan implemented, everything that you could want on my property there, and the water that's left going into the stream there, it's not quite clear. I wouldn't want to drink it, but it's just that close. Where when you look at everything else coming down from the upper end of the watershed, it looks like chocolate milk. It's proof to me that conservation practices put in place properly, you know, it does work. You know, I wish there's several times I thought, well, man, I wish I had a video of this, because the water's just almost that clear. And, you know, if that would be township-wide, county-wide, those things put in place, it would make a tremendous difference, tremendous. And, you know, when I see other operators, farmers, whatever, that, you know, disregard some of these conservation practices, you know, that's a good area to really focus on and try and get them to realize that maybe we could be doing things a little differently.
So, yeah, Mr. Chair, if you want me on my MS4 soapbox, there you go.
But you didn't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
So now you
I opened a can of worms.
You picked one of the two things I worked on last week was
Well, Scott, you'll be pleased to know that Steve Sawyer did mention that on Tuesday. My spouse was at the township, and I saw his little note that said star, Scott Russell is appealing, and then he wrote something with MS4, township may be asked to support and join at a later date. So it was definitely conveyed to the public. I'm sure it probably never made the great inch space you get in the newspaper, but it was conveyed.
We have been, the three managers have been talking to one another.
Right.
No, I wanted you to bring it up because it could be a very major,
Right. Costly.
costly budget item.
Costly.
Any other public comment?
Yes, Mr. Fry, now with the alert ordinance finish line in place, it's been talked about several times, having additional carrot on the end of the stick, doing something with traffic impact fee or rec fees in conjunction with that to make it a little sweeter deal for some of these developers out there. You've never really given much of an opinion yourself on that. Is it something that the township should be doing going forward, changing some of these rec fees, perhaps in the LERTA zone, perhaps for the same timetable that the LERTA zone is, or in a place, a 3-year time frame. You know, it was one of the points, I believe, at the business owners focus meeting that, you know, there seemed to be a consensus in the room. And correct me if I'm wrong there, Tony, that this would be something that would help entice some of this development too. If there's going to be a decision made on that, it probably should be soon so that it could go in effect in conjunction with the LERTA ordinance.
You want to?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll answer that one in terms of, that's part of one of the things that I'm trying to do that I've spoken with Scott about, that I need a lot more discussion with Scott about, and Elizabeth, quite frankly, in terms of we're running financial models right now, and those financial models that we're running have some very unique and very creative items that even Doug or Alan are not aware of right now, but there's some things that we're working on that would absolutely entail the feedback from the business community and do what we are trying to do, which is really facilitate, expedite the growth during this economic cycle. Does that answer your question?
No.
I think if you're talking about, just correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, you're talking about recreation fees, possibly, and impact fees.
Yeah.
I am a proponent, and I have been and I always will be, of a impact fee. I don't think it's fair to people who have lived here all their life, and you get tired of me saying this word, I know you do, subsidizing. But that's basically what you're asking the taxpayers to do when a big business comes in here and creates all kind of traffic issues and causes intersections to be changed and everything else, that I should have to bear the burden for them coming here. I'm glad they're here, but let's be honest about it, they're here for a reason. They like this place better than place B, X, Y, or Z. And I think the impact fee is needed just for that reason, if not anything else. I don't think it's fair to 10,000 people to subsidize Pepperidge Farm to come in here and build their big buildings, and that's great, but they bring all kind of traffic problems with them. I remember when it was called Building 264 at the time, it's now known as Supervisor, it was Acme. When they came in here, the Turnpike came in and was sitting here in this room. Terry Kaufman was the county commissioner at that time. And the Turnpike was complaining about having to build 2 extra collection booths because of all the traffic that's going to be generated. You had to pull me off the ceiling. I said, I'll build your booths, you take care of our traffic issues. We'll make a swap right now. Kaufman about blue, he said, just settle down, settle down. I said, no, they're not being realistic about this. Why should my residents of my township, that's not mine personally, but why should they subsidize Pepperidge Farm or Acme Market to come in here when they bring all their traffic issues along with them? It's not fair, and I will never, ever vote against I'm sorry about the business leaders thing, but when they have to sit up here and hear what I hear and be realistic about it, they would feel the same way. Manham Township has them, all the big areas where there's growth being built and people coming in have impact fees for a reason, and that's why they're called impact fees, traffic impact fees. I'll never vote against it.
And that's 2 other municipalities in Lancaster County.
2 of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
And when you look at Manham Township's growth, they got it. And the people can't wait to get in the place.
Well, I look at it in conjunction with the LERTA ordinance. You're putting a carrot out there to try and encourage development. We all want to see the tax base expanded, specifically with the budgeting problems that are coming in the years ahead. When you have that incentive already out there, and you just voted for that earlier tonight, in my viewpoint, this isn't anything different. This is the same kind of incentive to come out here. And when you look at it from a business person's perspective, what does a rec fee really do for the business? If you have a housing development, absolutely, it provides a place for the children in the development and such. But when you have a business out along the highway, Scott has said that previously, it's a problem for these people. And when you look at all the for sale signs up and down the highway here, don't you think that is part of what's permitting some of this development to happen?
Well, I'm not addressing the rec fee. I was addressing the traffic impact.
Well,
that was one of the complaints too, and I'm separating it.
Okay. Well,
I was addressing the traffic impact fee. I'm reserved on the rec fee.
Okay.
I'm on the fence on that. So So I hear all the pros and cons about it, and, you know, I'm not gonna make judgment, but my judgment on the traffic impact fee is, I love them here, but they're gonna have to help pay for what the issues they're bringing along with it. And those guys all know it, these engineering firms that do work in Manham Township, they know they're gonna get it, they know they're gonna get it here. It's not a surprise. And yet they choose to come, and that's great, so that says something.
Well,
The traffic impact fee, we do a payment plan. We did a payment plan for the last couple of them, which made it more feasible for them.
yeah, I understand there's legal ramifications of, you can't necessarily get rid of it, but correct me if I'm wrong, it is completely alterable that you can reduce the fee by whatever amount you decide to, and without ramifications. But, you know, either one, most of these developments, that fee is similar, the rec fee, traffic impact fee, there's probably not a whole lot of difference between those two. So one or the other could be reduced, go away, and still provide that extra incentive that you're looking for out there. But, you know, wouldn't it make a bigger splash to have that go into effect at the same time as the word ordinance?
We'll look at it. We are looking at a whole bunch
I was gonna say, I think Romeo said it best, you know, there's a lot of wheels spinning right now. And rather than stop the train and try and put everything in place, let's wait and see how it falls, we can talk about it. I haven't heard his ideas yet, so, you know, till we get to that point, that's fine.
And is that, I guess everything's on hold with the business owners' points of interest there, moving forward, addressing them till the budget's out of the way, or where do you see that time frame falling in?
Oh, after the budget meeting.
So there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on in this budget meeting.
So that could be at this month.
From my perspective, those are the comments from the business owners are some of the things that I'm currently modeling on the budget side and how these things play out and how they're going to look. I'm a numbers guy. And yes, what I indicated earlier doesn't give you a direct answer. And the reason it doesn't is I'm not done doing the models, Jeff. And it would be totally inappropriate, unfair, unprofessional, and not meeting my fiduciary responsibility sitting here making a comment about that right now, because I'm just not done with the models. In terms of when we change one thing, how does it impact? What are the effects going to be? And now we're looking 4 years down the road. So it's not just the impact of 2019, it's what's the impact of 2020, 2021, and then as soon as we hit 2019, we roll into that 4-year budget. The forecast is going to immediately go to 2022 again. So there's a lot of moving parts. So that's why, you know, I'm being hesitant when I'm saying I just don't have it all the data to present to everyone in terms of where do I sit.
We're a month ahead of schedule where we were last year in the budget, but I just sat down with these guys individually the other day. At this point, they guided us and stuff, and they gave me some homework assignments to get ready for the workshop individually. And then the first time I will get their collective feedback will be at the workshop meeting. And so they have basically a week to think about it and put together their individual strategies for the workshop, and then give me recommendations so that we can then finalize the budget. So what would happen is we will have the workshop meeting, what we say, on the 15th. There was a supervisor's meeting on the 18th where if anybody wants to comment on what was discussed at the workshop, that would be the appropriate place. But the official rolling out of the budget then would be our November 1st or 2nd, the first meeting in November is when the first presentation of the budget is, and that's when we have the real discussion. Because I will hear back from you guys from the workshop meeting. I'll roll it into that November budget, then November budget, then we'll talk about then. Second meeting in November, and then the board will take action in December. Either the first meeting in December or second meeting in December. So we are well ahead. Last year we did the workshop in November, and we were having a discussion in December.
But what I will very clearly say to you is the input that we got from the business community, absolutely those are contributing factors to some of the models that I'm buying, personally, that I'm looking at.
So is there effective ways that you've so far found to deal with that $1 million plus deficit in 2021, or?
We're working on it, we're working.
Yeah, personally, there's probably 20 different ways to address it right now. For me personally, with what I've pulled together, there's 20 different ways to work on it.
There's a whole bunch of different scenarios we could do.
You know, it now comes down to, I gotta sit down with Scott and give him what my 20 different scenarios are right now. But yes, I said this before, and I sincerely mean this, and I think it's important to say this to everybody. We're in a very interesting time because we understand now, we clearly understand we've got a challenge coming. But we have the time now to put in my opinion, the right corrective measures to address that challenge that's coming. And I think that's a very powerful place to be, versus not even knowing that there's challenges, major challenges coming 2 and 3 years down the road. We know that now. And that's the real value of that forecast on that budget. So that's a very, in my opinion, it's a very powerful and very important place to be, because I like to use how many times have I used the analogy? When you're on a ship or you're flying a plane and something goes wrong, you want the captain of that ship and you want that crew to have the confidence level to put everybody at ease and say, we're going to address it. And that's how I look at this right now. And hence why my comments at the last meeting, and I'll reiterate them again, there's a lot of work coming down the road. There's a lot of work coming in the next 12 to 14 to 16 months. There really is.
Mr. Fry, from my perspective, it seems like there's more enlightenment in what's coming ahead than what I've noticed in the past number of years. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Any motion adjourned?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion adjourned, thank you.
I was close to it.
Guess we should go get Tony. It's been a long day.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.